Wake up, get ready, time to shine, it's your day.
I am Marc Hamel, which, as you can imagine, is the same name as the actor who plays Luke Skywalker. So that's my face on Luke Skywalker's body, and this is how you can find me. That's my personal, and then I work for a autonomous vehicle company called Waymo, and I have a Google alias because they're owned by Google. But what I want to focus on today, there's a lot of noise when it comes to AI. I mean, the big buzzwords right now are AI agents and all these wild and crazy things that it's really like drinking from a fire hose with the pace that this technology is coming out. I was reading while I was sitting here the last two sessions, and Meta, they announced their own standalone AI, or Llama is going to have their own standalone iOS and Android app. It's like every day it's something new, and it's challenging to keep up with it, let alone to find out what's truly useful. So what I want to do in the next 15 or so minutes is just talk about what are some of those things that we can actually take from all this wild and crazy technology and use in our day-to-day workflow as a sourcer or recruiter, because there's a lot of cool things that are very shiny, but how many of those are actually applicable? So I'm gonna have a couple slides, and then I'll show just live a couple tools that I use daily that give me so much value and save me so much time. The first thing I want to mention is this really cool two sides of the coin. You have Jensen Huang, who's the founder, the CEO, I believe he's the CEO of NVIDIA. And his claim right here is one that really resonates with me from the promise of AI. And he says, the real promise of AI is not automation, it's augmentation. So it's helping humans to think and create in ways they never imagined. You just saw that picture of my face on Luke Skywalker's body. I can't even draw a stick figure, but the fact that I can make that in about 15 seconds just knocks those barriers down for other avenues. And I think that that's very exciting. But then the other side of it is the paradox, which Mustafa Suleyman has mentioned, who is the founder of DeepMind, as well as Inflection AI, mentioned that there's a risk when we get caught up in the whirlwind of what's possible with AI, which is all the stuff we see all over the place right now, and we lose sight of what is actually practical. So we need to find that it's less about the shiny toys and it's more about the practical application of those toys and things people can actually use. So there's a lot of noise out there, as I mentioned. Just bear with me as I get to showing some of that. But I love this image because it's talking about the shiny new toy syndrome. I think Steve said that. Somebody said that at a conference years ago. And I was like, yeah, that's what it is. It's a shiny new toy syndrome. Like I have a 4-year-old and we get him toys all the time and stuff like that. And he's way too spoiled. And he plays with them for like 10 minutes and then he just moves on. And that's really like the shiny new toy syndrome. He just always wants the new thing. And that's kind of what we need to balance, is what's that versus what's useful. This is something that I found really helpful. It was a study. I'm pretty sure the slides will get shared with everybody, I hope. But you can read the full study down here if you'd like. But what this study did is it took teams, individuals, gave some AI tools, gave some no AI tools. And what it found is kind of what you think would be found, but it's cool to see it on paper. And what it found was that individuals that are using AI, they performed as well as a team of two with no AI. So it basically is like another person. And then the cool thing that I thought about is that teams that they delivered higher quality. So it's not just about speed, and it's not just about augmentation. It's not just about getting more productivity. It's actually the speed that can come up here. So the other piece, and this is something I mentioned about the graphics a little while ago, is that it really knocks down all the silos and it eliminates barriers. So when you think about in the old days of when you'd have to build a tool for recruiting, you would have to go and probably write up a BRD, go find some teams that could build it for you on the development side, all these crazy things that took way too long. Now you can hop on any one of these tools and say, I have an idea for this. How could I build this? Then you could say, I have no idea how to write code. What are the steps I need to take? Like, these are just eliminating barriers that before just it was very time consuming. And that's what this technology is doing. It's really knocking down those barriers and allowing us to do more. And I want to share one quote and then I will go to the fun things. This is something that's resonated with me over the last year or so. And it's a individual named Ethan Mollick. He's a professor at Wharton. If people don't follow him on Twitter, X, or your medium of choice, LinkedIn, please do. Ethan Mollick, he is a great mind, but also he's very good at taking a lot of the technical jargon and making it understandable for those that don't have that technical background. So he's fantastic. But he's coined this term about using AI in the state that it is. So using LLMs, AI chatbots, so on and so forth. He said to treat AI just like an infinitely patient new coworker who forgets everything you tell them at each new conversation. So breaking that down, what does that actually mean? It sounds kind of funny, but what does it mean? Well, infinitely patient in that it's not going to judge you. You can go to ChatGPT or any of these and ask whatever you want. It's not going to say, I don't got time for that. I don't want to answer your questions. Grok might say that, but most of the other tools will not say something to that extent. It's not going to judge you. It's there to help. It doesn't care. The second thing is that it's new on the job, meaning that every time you use it, it really has no context for what you want from it. So what I mean by that is if somebody came to me and they said, write a Boolean string that I could use to find good engineers. Like I have an idea of what a good engineer would look like. I might want a little more context. Are we talking about like backend or what are we talking about? But the point is I could get us close to good. These systems and these LLMs, they really don't know what good is in the context you're looking for. So I used this exact scenario and I said, write me a Boolean search string to find good engineers or good, I said good backend engineers with whatever. And it took the term good and put that in the Boolean string as in highly successful or well accomplished or top of the class. And it put these words in there that in the moment I was like, no, that's something I would never do. But on the flip side, it's like, that's kind of cool. But all that to say, it still doesn't have the context of what good is. Also, the coworker piece, it's that you want to work with it. You don't want to give it just a bunch of orders. You want to work with it like a coworker. And the last thing, the forgetfulness, most of everybody out there, I would hope, knows that all these systems, it's static. So whatever information you're giving it in the conversation until recently they've extended memory, most of the time you're going to give it some information. And the next time you go back to that, you're going to have to give it the information again. So cool term. I think it's super helpful. It's a good way to think about this. But let's show a couple of the things that I use on a daily basis so everybody can see the actual practicality and use of this stuff. So I have a bunch of tabs and some of them are repeat. So just ignore the day in the life of a recruiter with a bunch of tabs. The first one, a very simple tool. It's called Super Whisper. Quick caveat, everything I'm showing you here is totally free. I don't believe in paying for things unless I have to. So I'm showing you all the free versions of all this. But the first one is called Super Whisper. And Super Whisper is pretty simple at its core. And there's other things that are doing this, but I like this one because what this is a speech to text tool. So you can speak, which I'll show you in a second, into your machine, as you all probably do all the time anyway, and it turns it into text. Why is this cool? I type way too much throughout the day, and I, for some reason, believe it or not, can articulate much better verbally than I can through my fingertips. So I like to speak things out. And most of the time, when you do that, you will start speaking and you'll get a bunch of ums, or it won't have proper punctuation and no periods and so on and so forth. What Super Whisper does is it takes what you're saying, runs it locally through your machine with puts a model on there. And what it will do is it will put all of the information in the right way. Like if you're speaking into it, it'll cut out the ums, it'll put the proper punctuation. So pretty much takes what you're doing, gets the raw text, and then formulates it in a way that's actually readable. So let's just run through an example and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about with the removal of the ums and that sort of nature. So let's just say, I like to tell some dad jokes, and I got a pretty good dad joke, I think. I was driving my son to school, and when on our way there, we came across a vegetable truck, and the vegetable truck was on the side of the road with a flat tire. And I said, "Hey guys, do you need some help?" And they said, "Nope, this is why we brought asparagus." So then you'll see, oh my goodness, it didn't. I just spoke all that out and it didn't work. Fantastic. Well, what would normally happen, great that has happened live on screen, is whatever I'm saying, as I'm saying it, it will do all its work. And then once I'm done speaking, it will print it all out. Wow, that is not cool that it didn't work. All right. Well, I will share, when I share, Dan, I'll give you a slide with a link to me doing this live so everybody can see it. Maybe it just did like my joke is what it was. Oh my goodness.
I don't think they thought it was very funny, so maybe that's why.
That's obviously why. But what it does, again, is you can speak into it and it will actually make it in a legible way like you typed it out. No ums, proper punctuation, so on and so forth. Fantastic tool when you don't tell the bad jokes that it doesn't like. All right, moving on from there. The next thing is Notebook LM. This has become relatively popular, but I would encourage people, if you haven't ever used Notebook LM, totally free tool, to use it and to use it for various different sourcing parts of your sourcing plan, if you want to use that term. And what it is it's basically you just create new, and it's like a repository, a little placemat of all the files you want to give it. and you can interact with all those. So I've already pre-built one here just to show you what it looks like, but normally you just add whatever sources you want. They could be links, they could be YouTube videos, they could be PDFs, they could be any type of media. Mostly you can add it as a source, and it takes all that information and it grounds your questions on whatever the sources are. So this is very helpful for building a sourcing strategy. So what I've done here is I've taken just 5, including myself, so 4 other people that I know relatively well. Steve, you're on here. They're just LinkedIn versions of their resume. And you can ask basic questions. So we can ask it something as simple as, like we can say, I'm going to just paste this in so I don't have to speak it out and save time. You can just say something as simple as, I'm hiring for a team that want similar people than these. Write me a Boolean string. Actually, no, let's use this one. It's a little bit better. I got a better one for you. Let's use this one because it's got more detail. So what this one says is I've uploaded resumes. I want a strategy with keywords, Boolean strings, target companies, blah, 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 based on the 5 people I gave. So what it's doing is it's the same as just like uploading a bunch of files to like ChatGPT and saying, hey, tell me about these 5 files, what works, blah, blah, blah. It's doing exactly that. So that's one thing you can do is you can interact to any extent you want with your files and things that you've grounded it on. And it's taking its sweet time. This is not my day. But the other thing that it can do, which is cool, is you can give audio overviews. So it basically just builds a podcast based on whatever it is that you've uploaded to it, paired with whatever instructions. So you could say, hey, let's generate a conversation, a podcast with all the information from the resumes that I've uploaded, paired with the job description I just gave you. Let's talk about a sourcing strategy. And it could do that for you. For me, that's helpful because I like to take my dogs for a walk in the afternoon, like after I eat lunch sometime, to kind of break up the day. And I like to listen to something that's actually useful to me. So I make these little podcasts all the time for myself, whether it's learning about a new role I'm going to be working on, or learning about some new technology, or it's still spinning and not working. Why is that? That is not cool. So NotebookLM is a great source. And it does one other thing that I find really helpful. And it makes these cool little mind maps. So what it did is it took all those sources and you can just let's look at myself. So you can look at the mind map of my contact info, my top skills, certification, summary. So whatever you're uploading, it creates mind maps for that. And I'm a very visual person. So looking at something like this is incredibly helpful for me to grasp what the topic is and dive a little bit deeper in. So NotebookLM, totally free source. Hey, there we go, 25 minutes later. And so it's got this, it's going to write some strings for me. It's going to talk about the key skills that overlap. Basically all the things that I asked it to do. There are my strings. Let's see if these are good. They took our titles. That's okay. Yeah, this would be a good starting point, I think. But the point is, I was just able to give it what my sources would be and run off of those. It's really helpful. I use this with a bunch of my sourcing strategy. I'll go to the hiring team and I'll say, who do you want to clone? Tell me about those people. And then I will take the information they provided me with the job description and say, here are the key things, and ask it and just interact with it. So super helpful thing that I leverage there. The other piece I want to show in 2 minutes, because I know we're coming up on time, is I'm a big fan of, like I just mentioned to you, what in the world is going on? Like I just mentioned to you, if I'm going to a hiring team and I'm working on technical roles, for example, I'll say, great, tell me about some projects, some open source projects, or tell me about things that the team is interested in or what they're working on. Most of the time they direct me to GitHub, where we can talk about some open source project. And from there, if you're a techno recruiter, usually your sourcer, you'd know that you could go to the contributors. You could see who's making the commits, like who's actually involved in the project. But there's tools out there leveraging LLMs that are very, very helpful. And there's one called Talk to Git. And essentially, if you're on any repository that you want, you just type in, let's just go back and I'll do it from scratch. So any repository that the hiring manager says, hey, this is cool, we want to do this one, you just write in talk to right before Git, and it will open this up, power with an LLM, and you can query the repository. So in this instance, I'm just going to say, hey, I'm hiring for a team this is what I said, hiring for a team that are familiar with this type of technology. Explain it to me and help write the Boolean string. So what it's going to do is it's going to read through all the files. It's going to analyze the repository, and then it's going to give you, hopefully, a Boolean string with, hopefully, a Boolean string. I have Google Fiber internet, so I know it's not my internet connection because it's like 5 gig. And nothing is working because I'm live on screen. Fantastic. Well, normally what it would do very quickly would give me that rundown, give me the Boolean string, and I can query whatever I want about the repository. I could say, all right, well, the hiring manager said they don't want people with this type of experience. They want this experience. What other projects out there could I look at for that? Or I could say, who are the top contributors? to this project. It would list those out for you. So again, it's a very easy way to, instead of having to go manually through a GitHub repository, you can just punch in talk to Git, or just talk to right before it starts GitHub in the URL. And there you go. I am right at time, and I have 100 more things I could show, and I'm an open book. So if people have further questions about this or anything else, I am happy to talk about it offline at any point. And of course, this isn't working. Wow. Well, on that note, I will pause and I will answer any questions people might have for just the few minutes that we have here.